Welcome to Unholy Vibes. I'm your host, Alex, as always, and today we're joined by another special guest, my new friend, Fox. Fox and I met on TikTok as I was scouring through lives, asking people if they had seen ghosts, and lo and behold, she has a good story for us. So, Fox, give us a little bit of an introduction, tell us who you are, and then let's dive right in.
Perfect. My name is Fox. I am currently a social media influencer, but formerly I worked for a haunted house in Tucson, Arizona, known as the Slaughterhouse. It is one of the most famous haunted houses in the world. At least that's what they like to tell everybody, and I believe them. And I was there for about 7 years, so I have quite a few experiences in the building.
I haven't been to a haunted house like attraction since I was like 13, I think, like a
Okay.
long time. I'm 31 now. I'm almost 32. And so it's been many, many moons. And the last time I went, it was more just like, jump scares, here's all this. But what makes something like this extra spooky and extra unique?
So I think the coolest thing about Slaughterhouse is that it was truly a former slaughterhouse. It closed down, gosh, I want to say 2 years before the Suttons, who owned it. They just recently sold it, unfortunately, after being around for 20 years. They bought it like a year or two after the slaughterhouse actually stopped production. So the story is that Farmer John, go figure, of course, that's his name, right? Owned it, and that his two children passed away in the building, in the boiler room to be specific, and that they haunted it ever since then. And that Farmer John decided that he was done after he lost his children. He went completely nuts. And there's a whole story. I'll have to find the link and I can totally send it to you. But it's really cool. When the Suttons took it over, they, super into Halloween, decided that they wanted to take the actual slaughterhouse and convert each room into a different haunt. So if you're scared of clowns, there was Cirque du Soleil. There was the bayou that was outside in like where the old cattle guards were. The boiler room was always stayed as the boiler room. They never changed that.
Yeah.
And then city meats where they used to hang the actual meat racks. That's what they called city meats. And that is one of the haunts where, as long as you sign the waiver, the actors are actually allowed to touch you. They are just not allowed to touch from below the collarbone or like above the knees. But other than that, they're allowed to touch you. So I think it made it a little bit more scary, for just the haunted house part of it. But there were so many things that actually happened to me, the other actors, the other red shirts, which is management, where all of us were 100% convinced that it was really haunted and did a whole episode there with Post Malone. That's
Oh,
cool.
that is cool. Yeah. Okay, so walk me through some of the experiences you had that you chalked up to being paranormal or something like that. Something that really
Yeah.
scared you.
So I think the first one that ever happened was, oh gosh, I think I was 15 at the time when I first started at Slaughterhouse. And I just volunteered at that point. So whenever you get there, they put you in a random haunt, you get your makeup done, get your costume on, and you go and you just do your best to scare people. I first started in Cirque. So I was a clown for my first few weeks there. And it's bright neon lights, lots of drawing. So it's already kind of like on edge. You pay attention to as much as you can. But behind the haunts, it's all plywood and tunnels for the actors to get back and forth. So my first night, I had been talking to some of the other actors that were more seasoned, and they were 100% this place is haunted. We do blackout nights, and we can tell you it is 100% haunted. And I was like, there's no way. There's no, you guys are full of it. And they're like, everybody who says that ends up getting messed with
Mm.
by the ghosts here. And I'm like, no, I don't believe you. Nothing's going to happen. You're all crazy. So I was in my haunt and I was in a little like narrow passageway waiting for people to pass by so I could jump out and scare them. And I ended up getting really, really dizzy at that point. And I contributed to, I have POTS and a couple other autoimmune diseases. So I was like, oh, I need to sit down, drink some water, chill out. I got really dizzy just out of nowhere. So I sat back, let people pass by, pretended that I wasn't there, just hiding in the dark. It just kept getting worse and worse. And then I remember I got really cold. I was like, that's polar opposite of what normally happens when I'm like about to pass
Okay.
out. Like I normally burn up, I got really, really cold. I was like, no, I need to go find cold water. I need to go sit somewhere where there's less fog, get out of here. So I walked through to one of the actor exits And as I was walking through, the door came and like smacked me. Like it felt like somebody was on the other side and shoved the door into me. And I just remember I turned around and I opened it back up to see if there was someone on the other side, like maybe a customer had seen me and they were just trying to skip, but nobody was over there. And I was like, huh, okay, that's a little odd. So I walked through the tunnels. I ended up getting back to where all the actors like get dressed and everything, drink some water, and felt fine after that. Once I got out of that area, it felt much better. Wasn't dizzy anymore. The cold went away, and I was just like, that was a little odd. All right. And that
Okay.
was just the first time. And the longer I was there, the weirder things got.
Of course. Can't start
Yeah.
off super crazy, right?
Yeah. No, no. They gotta ease you into it.
Does it slowly or quickly progress and get like crazier and crazier? Like how does it go? How long did you work there, by the way? I don't remember if you
Wanna
said.
say it was almost 7, off and on,
Okay.
almost 7 years.
Okay, yeah, I believe you did say that. So over the course of about 7 years, how many how like that's the first couple weeks you're getting something happening, right? So
Yeah, my very first night, something happened.
yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
wild, but not so crazy that you're like, "Oh my gosh, like you could almost chalk that up to like, oh, maybe it was someone or maybe it was the wind or
Yeah.
whatever, right? You try and like rationalize things like that when they first
Mhm.
happen. Like, so
Oh, yeah, especially because 'cause I've had just so much random what I would consider ghost experiences in my, like, lifetime or things when I was younger where I was like, "That was probably totally a ghost." So, when little things happen, I was like, "Fine."
yeah, no big deal. Okay, so keep going through your timeline. What else is happening as you're there?
Over the course of the next couple of years while I was there, it was always just small things. It would be doors shutting when there was nobody on the other side of the door. We had the air cannons in city meets, so there was a dark tunnel that customers walk through, but the air cannons were motion censored. So we
Oh,
always knew when they were coming through because the cannons would go off.
right.
But at closing, when we're going through and we're making sure all the actors are out and it's time for everyone to go home, nobody's lingering, we would do the final walkthroughs. And after we'd walk through, the cannon would go off again behind us. Like somebody else was following us through the haunt, but there wasn't anybody. We were the last people in the building, making sure we were fully closed down, locking everything. And the air cannon would go off. Motion
Yeah.
detectors would go off. The creepiest thing, you always felt like you were being followed. But small things like that, where you're just like, "Okay, cool. We have a friend that's just tagging along with us." We would have other actors or volunteers that would come up and they would tell us that something scratched them. And they would have scratch marks on them and we'd be like, there wasn't anyone else with you, like you didn't run
Right.
into something, this didn't happen while you were like in the middle of scaring somebody. And nope. Usually it was always just at random. I was standing in my place and it felt like someone scratched me and there was nobody there when I turned around. And I had that
Wow.
happen to me once. I want to say it was my 3rd year in. I was working we had a haunt called APOC Apocalypse, and in this haunt, people dress as zombies. You got, like, a laser gun that had, like, CO2 behind it that you get to go in and shoot zombies. The actors had to actually drop to the floor and act like they were dead zombies.
I would
Uh,
go to that. I would 100% go to that. That sounds awesome.
it was so much fun. Like, it was great. That was my favorite haunt to work. I was in there the longest. But one night, I was working in the front. I was scanning tickets at the entrance of the haunt. We had been just having people in all night long, and we finally stopped. We took a break, made sure that everyone was getting some water. Had a couple people waiting in like we had a little wait area where they would come in, and this guy Jim, I'd get them prepared before they went and got their weapons. And I had a little desk with my computer, my ticket scanner, and I was just sitting at my desk, and my radio had gone off, and they were letting me know that they were going to be bringing me peanut butter crackers down because I was hungry. And I was like, "Okay, perfect, thank you, appreciate it." And then I felt someone, like, tap me on the shoulder, and I turned around, nobody was there. So I was like, "Okay, that's a little weird, whatever." And so I paged Jim, who's a guy who always yells at people and gets them ready. I was like, "Hey, were you just behind me?" And he was like, "No, I'm still in the other room." I was like, "Okay, that's weird." And he goes, "Why?" And I was like, "Could have sworn somebody just touched my shoulder." And he just laughed. He had been there way longer than me, like a decade longer. So he just laughed. And I was like, "All right, well, that is what it is." We had a couple more people come through, and then they were all sitting there waiting. I had closed the little ticket line while we were letting that group pass through, and then it felt like somebody scratched the shit out of me, and I went over to Jim's area, and I had him look at my back. I had pulled my shirt, and it was from right here below my ear, all the way down to my shoulder. It was just 4 scratch marks, like someone just drew blood. I had blood on me. I had to end up going to get the first aid kit for them to clean it off, and there was nobody
Wow.
else in the hunt with me.
Wow.
Yeah. It was it was very, very wild. I remember I was like, "Okay, nope, I need somebody else working in here with me now. I do not wanna be at the front by myself. I don't care. A million customers come through. I need someone else that's gonna be sitting here with me."
That's intense. Because 'cause I've heard
Yeah.
of people getting scratches, but not so hard that there's blood drawn, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it wasn't
Um,
like, like pouring. It was like as if a
yeah,
cat, like a cat
still,
had,
yeah.
like, scratched me like a paper cut almost. It was just weird.
So it starts off with a little push of the door, you get scratched next. Had other people who'd worked there, had they been experiencing physical interactions like that with scratches? Or was it
Oh, yeah.
because you'd said, sometimes guests would even get scratches, right?
Yeah, the other actors and volunteers, we had guests that would say that they did, but
Okay.
it was really hard to tell. We would go back and check on cameras, and we had a lot of people that would be, intoxicated coming through. They would trip over their friends, they would push into the walls. So a lot of those were kind of hard to decipher on like what actually happened. But with the actors, we had so many people that would come in and be like, nope, someone was with me, somebody shut the door on me, somebody pushed me, somebody scratched me. And we would go look on the cameras, and they were the only actor in that haunt, or they were, feet away from anybody else.
Did you ever catch anything on camera?
I never did inside of Slaughterhouse, but I do have friends still that worked there longer than I did and that stayed after. One of my friends, Dylan, he has footage of what he said was a ghost whenever they did a blackout night, and they all stayed the night overnight in the slaughterhouse. And then one of my other friends, Karaya, she says that she's got a couple videos where she's caught some things. So I actually reached out to them before this and had
Mm.
asked them if they would send those over to me. They are supposed to be getting them to me ASAP so I can get those sent over to you.
Yes, please send those to me. And
Yeah.
if they wanna come on and talk a little bit too, that's also fine with me.
No, I'm sure Karaya would love it. Dylan, if I remember right, I haven't seen one of the videos that he had, I haven't seen since I was 17. So this has been 10 years now. But Dylan, that boy went through it when it came to Slaughterhouse. And I don't know if it's just because he had been there from the very beginning, because he was close friends with the Suttons, he had grown up with them, or what it was. But we called the Slaughterhouse ghost Dougie. And Dougie was famous enough to where we did like actor trophies, you get like best haunt or whatever was the trophy. I have one of them and it's the shape of Dougie. But Dylan went through it so hard to where we were all convinced that Dougie haunted his car. He had a 98 Honda Prelude, and it didn't matter how many times he replaced the stereo in that thing. It would always just go haywire and start playing the most random music ever every time he was leaving Slaughterhouse. It would just go. It
Interesting.
would never do it any other time, only when he was leaving Slaughterhouse, and I think he was harassed by the goats. I don't know what it was about Dylan, but
There's a
Dougie just had it
vendetta.
out for him.
Yeah, the personal vendetta.
Yeah,
That is
he
wild.
was mad. He ended up wrecking that Honda Prelude and then got another one, and that's finally the radio issues stopped, but he had also stopped taking the Prelude to Slaughterhouse.
That is so funny. Okay, keep going. I know you've got more. I know you've got more.
I
I
do,
can tell.
I do. Not all of mine are from Slaughterhouse specifically, they were
That is
just
okay.
more. Yeah, they're the
Life
more,
in
like,
general,
recent ones.
yeah, listen, if you've got some from yesterday, I'll take them. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
anything you've got, I'm ready and willing to listen to.
Okay, perfect. Well, I have one more from Slaughterhouse, and it was so my ex-boyfriend used to do security for Slaughterhouse, and we would do other events like Gem and Jam, and they come through and they do like the Gem show and they like throw music festivals and stuff like that on the Slaughterhouse property. So I worked a lot of those events too. So my ex-boyfriend stayed in an RV during the events to, watch the campgrounds, see what's going on, just be there in case anything.
Right.
So there was a few times where I would stay the night with him. We had They had the cameras to alert you if anyone was like going in the building, anyone was walking across the field, whatever. And those cameras would always go off. That someone was walking across the field or somebody was inside the building, he would have to go and he'd have to check it all the time. And then they had one on the back lawn that watched over the RV. And there was one night where a camera had gone off, and it was for an apocalypse. Apocalypse has the lower level and then the second story, so you have to go upstairs. So it was the upstairs room that had gone off. So he was getting ready, and he was like, "I gotta go up into APOC, see what's going on. Why are cameras going off?" And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll just come with you then." And get ready to walk out. The back lawn camera goes off. Like there's someone that set it off before we had even opened the door. Like someone was coming up to the RV. So we looked, there's nobody there. We go, head inside, go up to Apocalypse. And when people are done with the guns in there, we have to empty out the old CO2 canisters. So we
Okay.
had buckets of them, of just empty CO2 little cartridges. And he's up there, he's looking around. I'm standing behind the back counter, and he disappears down one of the halls to go out onto the roof of the building. And I hear something go like dink next to me, and I look down and it fell to the floor, and it was a CO2 canister. So I turned around, I yelled at him, and I was like, "Why are you throwing things at me?" And he didn't answer. So I picked it up and I chucked it back. And he didn't answer, he didn't say anything, he didn't throw anything back. I was like, "That's really freaking weird." And then we have cameras in APOC as well, so I get an alert for downstairs apocalypse, and he's walking downstairs. So
Hmm.
he had gone out to the roof, went down the stairs, and was back downstairs at the point that something had been thrown at me. So there was no way at all that he could have been the one to throw it. And I just remember I got chills and I was like, "Nope." And I just ran out, ran down the stairs and went to go find him. And I was like, "Do not ever leave me alone up there ever again."
And this wasn't just like a, oh, it fell out of the bucket. It was like an
No, the
aggressive
bucket was on
throw.
the floor.
Okay.
Like the bucket was within my reach. So there was no way.
Oh,
There was
okay.
nothing why they should have been like up where they could have fallen down. Like, no, it was like somebody threw it.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think it's funny that your first reaction was like, "Ugh, that was rude."
Yeah, I was like, "Why are you being, an ass? Why are you throwing things? That's not funny." And it's the middle of the
Yeah.
night too. So I'm just like, "Why?" We have flashlights. The lights aren't even on in the building. And that wasn't him. Don't know what that was about, but was not a fan.
Was scary for sure.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Dang.
Don't recommend.
Ew. Yeah. Okay. Can save this for later. Continue.
That's the craziest that it ever got for me at Slaughterhouse. So it was I'd been scratched, doors hit me, random CO2 canisters being thrown. Um, Definitely, I don't think anything of it now because I'm just like, I feel like I've experienced weirder things growing up. The Slaughterhouse, I was just like, yep, it is what it is. It's a spooky place. Like
Yeah.
it's you go to a haunted house and you should expect to get haunted, you know?
You know what? Totally valid.
Yeah.
Totally valid. You're putting yourself in that situation. Something's gonna go down.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can my friend Karaya, she's got some fun stories though. I mean, there are so many actors that would just get injured at random. They'd be like, I feel like somebody pushed me. Now I have a sprained ankle. We had a couple people get their teeth knocked out because they would fall and hit something and then their teeth would get knocked out and they would be just
Gee.
convinced that somebody pushed them. So I didn't get the worst of it when it came to Dougie the ghost and him being whatever he was doing. But
Yeah. What if there was just some random squatter living in the walls or something?
yeah, they did find there was a couple people that had broken in, and they would from time to time find somebody that was just like staying in the building. So I do think of that sometimes too. I'm like, what if that was just like, I was like, it'd be really funny. Let me just throw something at one of these kids, you know?
Yeah, let me just scratch a kid working here. But I feel like if you would have, I don't know. I feel like
I
getting
think they
scratched
would
by a
have been
homeless.
caught on camera, you know? In
Yeah,
all the
that
areas
too.
that we were when these things happened, we were directly in view of cameras.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, no homeless people doing it. Let's just. It
Yeah.
was good for sure, for sure. I just I like to, maybe it was something else, but yeah,
I do the same thing. I always try to just rationalize it. Like, nope, it was the wind. That's why the door hit me. No,
yeah,
maybe it was a tree branch. The scratches I could never explain. I was like, I don't know, but I don't like it. I
yeah.
wasn't near anything. I wasn't near the fence. I wasn't near the trees. So some things I was like, there's no explanation for it. So I just gotta accept it for what it is.
Flock it away, not think about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, always the best. Like I just don't want to deal with this right now. Dink gone.
Hmm.
So you say you've been saying a little bit about your childhood or growing up. having experiences. What's that all about?
I was younger. My mom was very into telling ghost stories, and it was things that happened to her that she couldn't quite explain. So, there's things that you look out for when you're being raised and being told all of these stories. My mom grew up in Tucson for the most part. She always lived next to a wash. So, one of her favorite stories is, the woman in white that haunts the washes
Hmm,
and Ouija board one night, and
no
they got in
thanks.
trouble for having it. Yep. And so they went and they chucked it in the wash. They were going to be done with it, chucked it in the wash. And 2 days later, it showed back up on their doorstep.
Of course.
So, yeah. So she always had stories like that. And there was one night, it was shortly after my grandma had passed away. I want to say maybe a week or two. So I would have been around 8. And my mom was telling us the story of the Ouija board again because all of my cousins and stuff were in town and everyone was around for the funeral. So my mom was telling us these ghost stories. And then we had decided that we were going to watch Saw. I think it was one of the very first Saw movies that came out. So we told ghost stories, gonna watch a scary, gory movie. It's gonna be a great time. And we had just started the movie when the kitchen light started flickering off and on, just out of nowhere. And
Mm,
my cousin and my sister both screamed. I was little, so I just looked around and was like, "Why is everybody tripping? The light's just being weird, you know? It's fine. It's probably just grandma messing with us." And my mom came out and she was like, "Did you just say your grandma's messing with you?" And I was like, "Why is the light flickering off and on? Like the switch is fine. There's no reason for it to be going off and on." And a few days later, my mom had found out about something that one of my uncles had done. And she found out and was talking about it. And then the closet rack of my grandmother's closet, she was grandma's house talking about this, the rack just fell. And at that point, there was nothing on it. We were clearing her stuff out. So in the middle of her going off about how dumb my uncle is and this dumb stuff that he's doing, how his mom is probably rolling in her grave and she would never approve of all of this, a closet rack just fell out of nowhere. And I remember my mom was just like, "Nope, I'm done talking about it." Clearly, my mom's not happy about it. We're just done. Grandma doesn't want to talking about this, so we're done talking about it. And and I don't know if it was my grandma, but there was another night where my mom and my dad were talking, and before my grandma had passed away, she had had a fall in her bathroom where she had fallen into her shower. And this night they were talking about her, and I don't know if they were arguing. I don't know the full story. I just remember I was sitting in the living room and I heard a loud bang, like somebody had fallen. And my parents heard it in their bathroom. So they got up and they went and they checked, and nothing had fallen in the bathtub. There was no like shampoo bottles, the little like thing that holds, the little shower rack. That was perfectly in place. Like nothing had fallen. They couldn't figure out what made that noise in the bathroom, but it sounded like somebody had fell. We're in the middle of talking about my grandmother.
interesting.
Mhm.
Very spooky.
Yeah, there are just random little things that have happened in my family over the years. I remember after my brother-in-law had passed away was the like night turning like midnight turning my birthday. I was laying in bed and he had just passed away a month prior. And I was laying in my bed and I remember sitting there thinking, I was like, man, this really sucks that like Derek's not going to be here for my birthday. And I was turning 10, I think. And I was laying there watching TV thinking that, and I just heard like scratching, like down the wall to my bedroom. And
Thanks.
I looked and I thought maybe it was my dad. So I got up and I opened the door. Nobody was down the hallway. My dog was in my room, so it wasn't my dog. And then I looked at the time and it had just turned midnight of my birthday. So I was like, oh, all right, cool. That's a weird way to say happy birthday.
Hey,
That's
yeah,
great.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's just always this random little thing that I would try to find an explanation for, but never could. So I'm gonna go with it was ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah.
I I lived in a house years ago where rats had gotten in the wall,
Mhm.
and I could hear them
Yep.
scratching at stuff. But that's a
Yeah, I rented a house that had.
very specific noise, though. It's
Mhm.
different than like a
Yeah.
wide run scratching or whatever on a wall.
Yeah, it's like a scattering noise.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you can tell that it's like very like light. This was 100% like loud. I was convinced that my dad was coming to say happy birthday to me, like walking down the hallway and just put his hand on the wall and was just dragging it, thinking that he was
Right.
going to scare me or be funny. But
Yeah.
no,
Okay. No. All pre-haunted house. What about post-haunted house? Any other experiences that stick out? I mean, from any point in life.
yeah. So nothing super crazy. I think one of the ones that was like just hard to accept for what it was. So both of my parents have passed away. My dad passed away when I was 16, before I turned 16. My mom just passed away last year. My dad passed in 2014, and my granddad, his father, passed 2 years later, so 2016. And when he was dying, he was in his bedroom, and my aunt and my nanny, his wife, were there and they were talking to him, and he kept telling them to get out of the way. He needed to get out of the way because he needed to talk to him. And that's what he kept saying. He needed to talk to him. He needs to talk to him. He's here to see him. And my nanny, who was very religious, mind you, went on and was like, it's Jesus. My granddad said, no, Wayne's here, and was talking about my dad. And he was like, he's here. He's in the corner of the room. You need to get out of the way. I need to talk to him. I need to talk to him. So they were just like, okay, well, I guess he doesn't want to talk to us. He's losing his mind. He wants to talk to his son that has been gone for almost 2 years. So they let him be. They came in and they were checking on him throughout the night, and he was convinced. He was having conversations with my dad, and my dad was waiting for him in the corner of his room, and that he knew he was going to pass away that night because my dad was there to talk to him. And sure enough, he was gone over the next morning, and had told them that his son was there and he was in the corner of the room.
Intense.
Yeah.
There's so much we don't know when
Mhm.
it comes to spiritual things. And I mean, religious or not, there's just so much we don't know.
Mhm.
And so who's to say he wasn't?
I don't know. I think that it could be ghosts. It could also be, your brain in those final moments making something like a happy ending for you. There's so many theories that could go into it. I know that when I almost died, I was convinced that I heard my dad say no, came to on the side of the road and was just like, what? And I was in and out after that. So I don't know if that was truly my dad, I know, on whatever other side there might be, saying, "Nope, this ain't happening. You're too young. Try again later," not answering
And
the door in that,
not today.
or if that was just my brain trying to protect me because I don't remember, my accident at all other than coming to on the side of the road after hearing that.
Say
Yeah. Mhm.
our knowledge is limited. Our brains are complex. And
Mhm.
I think no matter what, we'll never fully understand until we do. You know what I mean? Like until
Yep.
we're dead, we won't know for sure.
Yeah, it's true. It's
And
true. I'm not afraid of like dying. I'm just afraid of the after part. That's why I'm like, I'm definitely a ghost person because that's what I want to do. I'm gonna come back and haunt some people. We're gonna have a great time, guys. It's gonna be fantastic.
yeah, yeah, why not? A little after party, right?
Exactly. You're not getting away from this. No.
I like that outlook. So, on that note, did you grow up religious or was your family religious?
So I wasn't. And for the longest time, I thought my parents weren't either. I always knew that my nanny in Louisiana was very, very Christian. And like when we went to visit, you have to go to church on Sunday. It don't matter what your beliefs are, you are going. That woman don't want to hear nothing. She had my parents baptize me at 14 years old because she was convinced that I was going to go to hell if I didn't get baptized. So that was interesting because I wasn't raised, my parents didn't really talk religion. It was
Mhm.
always, my grandparents that did. So when I was 14, I was like, I don't want to get baptized. Like I don't believe in any of that.
Yeah.
I'm an atheist, was my view. And my mom was like, you don't say that ever. You don't no, you're not atheist. You don't get to say that. And I was like, why do you care? You're not religious. And then that's when I found out that no, my parents were Christian. They just never talked about it. They didn't push it on us kids. They just you're gonna grow up and believe what you're gonna believe unless you say you're an atheist.
You can be anything, just not that.
Yeah, they're like, "You can be anything other than that one thing." But, yeah, It wasn't like a big thing in our household. It was majorly in my grandparents back in Louisiana. They had crosses all over the walls, church every Sunday, sometimes multiple times a week. Like that was my nanny's thing.
Yeah. Listen, it works for some and not for others. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'm a religious guy myself, and people who listen, they know that. I don't need to do that. But I always find it interesting people's experiences and also like seeing what their beliefs are. And
Hmm.
some people grow up religious, some people don't. And I've had people on the show that are atheist or agnostic, and they just say, listen, I can't make sense of this.
When I was younger, I definitely thought that I was an atheist. As I've gotten older, I'm like, I know that I believe that there's something. I just don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a singular God or multiple. I just know that there's something else there because there are just things that are unexplainable unless you have some sort of a higher power. And I envy the people who actually have like a true religion because they have something to look forward to.
Hmm.
They don't fear death because they know what comes after for them, you know?
Yeah.
And that's comforting. I don't have.
Even being religious, I still know that I don't know a lot. I
Mhm.
still know there's so much we don't know that, like, yes, I like to approach things with a healthy skepticism, but I also have a healthy belief.
Yeah,
Just like,
you
yeah,
have an open
I
mind.
have an open mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's to say that that wasn't happening?
Mhm.
We don't know. Just because you can't see it yourself doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's a little different. And maybe some people just have that little extra something that lets them
Yeah.
perceive more than the next person. I'm not a very sensitive person, spiritually sensitive person, for
Mhm.
better or for worse, right? On either end of the spectrum. I've had very few paranormal experiences, and I know that that's not everyone else's experience. And so, point I'm getting at is why not?
Yep. Oh, I get that. I think what really drives something, I don't know if it's necessarily ghosts, but a big reason why I do believe that there is something that happens when a spirit leaves the body is because I have had so many people in my life pass away. Like, and I knew every single time, which is it's weird. I don't know if it's just an intuition thing, but I think that the people that I have cared about or cared about me that have passed away, when they did, they like dropped by to say goodbye in a sense. And that's just because of how many times like my first family member that I remember passing away was my grandma when I was 8. And my mom and dad took care of her. She had cancer, so she was paralyzed from the waist down. So we had moved in with her. And I remember I was up. We were going to watch the Golden Girls before I had to get ready for school, you know? And we were talking. My parents were out. They were going to take her to the hospital because she said that she wasn't feeling that good. So they were rushing everything. And I remember my grandma was just chill about it. She was just like, you don't got to do that. It's fine. Like she almost like knew. Looking back on it, that woman knew that that day was that day,
Hmm.
that she was not going to be with us anymore. And I remember she told me that she loved me and that I needed to get up and get ready for school. And I laid back down. I was in the living room with her. Her hospital bed was in our living room. And I laid down on the floor in front of her hospital bed. And I just remember everything got quiet. For me, at least, everything just got quiet. My parents were running around outside. The nurse that would come in and check on her, Pam, she had gotten completely silent in the recliner next to me, and I just had a feeling. Got up and I was like, "Grandma," and she was gone. It was like just like a quiet but calm, like knowing feeling. And then when my brother-in-law passed away, he was in a motorcycle accident, so he passed away very suddenly, very tragically. And we had talked earlier in the day, and then that night I couldn't go to bed. Like, no matter my parents were like, "You need to go to sleep. Like, you got school tomorrow. What are you doing?" And I just could not sleep at all. I was like, "No, like something's happening. I feel like something is going to happen, and I don't know what it is." And the phone rang, and it was the phone call from the police officer because my sister was present when he passed away. She was in the truck. So she had had the police officer call my parents, and it was them notifying my parents that there had been a fatal accident, that Derek was gone. And I remember my mom saying it out loud, and I was just I I knew something was going to happen. And I walked into my other sister's bedroom, woke her up, and I was like, "Hey, Derek's gone. he was in a motorcycle accident and just calmly shut the door. Like, I just had a feeling. I knew it was gonna happen. When my dad passed away, I was in the room as in the hospital room as he passed away. And I remember I was going completely nuts, as any daughter would. I was just losing my mind. And doctors pulled me out of the room and they were trying to bring him back with the paddles. And I watched for a little bit before I finally had turned around. I couldn't watch it anymore. And it was the same, just like feeling hit me. Like the room went silent for me and it was like a calm. And I was like, they're not bringing him back. He's not coming back. And it was 30 seconds later, they called it that nope, he was gone. And I was like, huh. And when my mom passed away last year, I was at work sitting there and I just remember I got really tired and I just had a feeling something was going to happen that day or something had already happened. I should say. I was just like, something's off. I don't get it. Extra tired today. I don't have like the motivation to do anything, but like I don't feel bad. Not having a bad day. It's just a something's going on. And I got the phone call from my husband that my sister had called him and said that he needed to pick me up because they found my mom unresponsive. And that's I knew. I was like, she's not just unresponsive, she's gone. That's what that whole feeling was. That woman is gone. And after seeing, my parents, grandparents, everyone, and seeing what they look like right after they've passed away, you know that spirit's gone. Like it's knowing who the person was before and seeing them after they've passed. It's weird unless you've seen it firsthand, but you just know that that soul is no longer in there. So I'm
Yes.
a firm believer that all the weird feelings I've got is in the moments that they passed and they like came by to be like, it's cool, man.
Yeah. You can tell something's missing.
Yep.
And
Yes. It's hard to explain. I don't know. It's just
I've
a
only,
feeling.
yeah, I haven't had many deaths in my family yet, but I've been to a couple funerals and seeing like an open casket, you go look at a body and you just go, what is this?
Yeah. When I was younger, I always thought that that was maybe because like, them being embalmed and
Yeah.
they never look the same or they've got the makeup put on them. So of course they don't look the same. But if you're seeing like parents like literally right after, I was like, huh, no, you can just tell that that's no longer them. That spirit is somewhere else now. That energy has left that body and that's no longer them. That it was just a vessel. It doesn't look like them. It's weird. It's weird.
And that'll do it. I mean, that's enough to like with your whole journey of your belief. That's enough to change someone from an atheist to there's something out there. Everyone's different. When you see something like that, it changes you a little. I'm sorry you've had so many passing in such a short time, but
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you sharing all of these experiences because those are very personal. Those are intense and not scary, but just an instance of something's different, knowing something's going on.
Mhm.
Call it intuition, call it spirit, whatever. I feel like there's people out there. I've had a couple people before tell me they knew when someone died or did it by grandma when she passed. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, what more is there to even discuss? It happens all the time to people. You can't explain it,
Yep.
but
And just feel like until something like that happens, it's just you can't.
yeah,
You can't
yeah.
describe it. You can't explain it. You just
Well, that's really special stuff. So thank you again for sharing.
yeah.
I mean, we come for the spooky vibes. We stay for the fascinating stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you have anything else you want to share, any other crazy experiences, by all means.
I did think of one more thing that I think would be fun.
Yeah.
So while we were talking about the religion half of things, it made me think of I had a best friend throughout high school. We're still pretty good friends now, but her and her mom were Wiccan. Like they did the spells, they had all the whole setup. I don't know exactly what all of it is, so I can't list it all up because I feel like I'll say it wrong and I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
But they were very much Wiccan. And Sabrina was her name. And she always joked about throughout her childhood how she had Christy. She was the ghost that followed her mom around and always moved with her mom. And then when Sabrina was born, it became Sabrina's ghost that her mom would tell her that she would wake up in the middle of the night and there would be a woman standing over Sabrina's crib. And so I heard these stories from Sabrina and her mom multiple times. And they were very much, yep, ghosts are real, spirits are real, bad things are real. And there was one time, and we had like little random things happen to like me and Sabrina would be upstairs in her room and we'd hear the front door open and shut, like, oh, her mom's home. And nobody would be there. We would be downstairs, hear footsteps upstairs when we were the only people in the house. So we're just like, okay, well, I guess it's Christy. Wild. Cool. Just gonna leave that alone. Multiple times I would go out to pick up Sabrina from the outside of her house because she'd hear something weird and not want to be home alone. But there was one night over the summer, right after my dad passed away, actually. So it was the summer I turned 16. And I had stayed the night. Sabrina got up because I think she was in summer school at the time, or maybe she had a doctor's appointment, but her and her mom were gone. And I remember I woke up just with a weird feeling and her door was open and I like kind of like opened my eyes and I thought that her mom was standing in her bedroom doorway. So like from Sabrina's door, you look down the hall, you could see her mom's bedroom door. So it looked like her mom was standing in the doorway. So I was just like, oh, okay, they must be back. Great. And I closed my eyes again and I didn't hear anything. And Sabrina never came into the room. So I was like, home, like Sabrina would have come and like woken me up. She would have been like, what are you doing? You want to eat or something? She always did. So I remember I just like opened my eyes again and nothing was there. So I called Sabrina and I was like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys like back outside or something? And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, aren't you and your mom home? Like, I just saw your mom. And she's like, we're still across town. What do you mean? And I was like, there's somebody in your house, dude. What do you mean? What do I mean? I can't go downstairs because I have to walk past that room to go downstairs. There's somebody, call the cops. There's somebody in this house. And her mom was like, there's nobody in the house. The doorbell never went off. I would know if somebody was in my house. And I was just like, nope, stay on the phone with me. And I grabbed my stuff and I went downstairs. I went and sat outside until they got home. I was terrified because it looked like it was her mom just standing in the doorway, like looking towards the stairs. So I thought she was waiting for Sabrina to come upstairs.
I don't like that. I do like that.
Nope, I wasn't a fan either.
Yeah.
I was like, don't ever leave me in your house alone again.
I can't even. So again, I'm not like sensitive to these things. I've never had that kind of thing where it's like, I see a person. I have friends who have, and I'm like, how do you even do that? Because I have a buddy who for a while, he was seeing something like all the time.
Mhm.
It would drive me insane, I feel like. Or maybe you get used to it. I don't know. It sounds like they were just used to it.
Yeah, she just accepted it for what she said, that it never seemed like it was going to hurt her. So she took it as that this Christy, as she called her, was protecting her. And then when she had Sabrina, she was protecting Sabrina. She never took it as like a bad omen or like a bad go and nothing like that. But she just like, no, I trust it. I was like, oh, well, I don't because it just popped up while I was sleeping. That's weird.
Yeah. I don't know this ghost like you do, lady. Like, just
Yeah.
not
I'm
on
like,
the same.
I'm not comfortable with it watching me while I sleep. That's weird. Stop
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Weird. Yes. Are there any other experiences you want to share before we wrap up, or you think you got all the goodies?
No, I think I got all the good ones.
Okay. Excellent. Hey, I'm happy if you're happy. This is really good stuff. And again, I'm honored that you came on and shared these personal stories. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I am so excited to share this with the peoples. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap up? Any socials you want people to check out or follow? Anything like that?
You should put my TikTok or my Instagram out. My TikTok's the big one that I primarily use. And then I don't know if since you were living in Arizona, if you have friends in Arizona still that like follow your podcast, but this year is Slaughterhouse's final year. So if anybody wants to go check it out, now is the time to do that. It will not be back. The Suttons are selling it, and I think it's getting turned into a hotel.
Oh no. Haunted hotel. Let's go. It's
Yeah,
going to be
I think they're
haunted.
going to demolish the building, and that's going to be interesting.
Okay. When you demolish a haunted place, where do you think that stuff goes? I mean, if you build on top of somewhere haunted, I feel like the haunting just kind of seeps in through the floor, like
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah, I'm
have
like, it's in the air. You can't get rid of it.
yeah, it's there now. But just a little bit of housekeeping for the unholy vibes. Everyone, if you've been listening, you know. And if it's their first time, I'm gonna tell you, I am in this for the love of the game. I like scary stories. I'm fascinated by them, and I will never be able to get enough. Please share this episode and other episodes with someone. Share this, like it, whatever, review, all that stuff. But really, I want to spread the word so that way I can get more people reaching out to me with good stories. So please, if you have a story, you know where to find me. DM me on Instagram or TikTok at unholyvibespod, or you can email unholyvibespod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been tremendous, and I'm looking forward to those videos that your friends are going to send you. So
Yes.
we'll be in contact. I love you guys. You're great. This has been Unholy Vibes. Stay spooky, and we'll see you next time.